to pray. There's no angels where I go, only pieces that are broken, scattered dreams across the floor. I'm home.
Alrighty, hello everybody, this is Kira's show here. Now then, I am taking a break from Titanfall 2 since I bought the game and let it install overnight. Probably been playing it for an hour or so, so yeah. I've gotten a bit of good information out of the game, so I can start off where I left off. Anyways, another thing before I do start, someone was kind of questioning as to how the Titans can be heroes or do they kill people? Because that's a very big concern, since a Titan can smash a person to a red paste. I want to say that the Titans, if they need to use lethal force against like a villain, since most people or people with quirks are a lot more durable, there are certain ways to work around those effects. However, there are protocols in place to protect civilians. But those protocols need improvements, so let's begin. Now, funny I mentioned improvements, since we will start off with Deku and his dad working on the BT AI. Now, Deku, him and his dad have been working for probably about an hour or two, and Hisashi's getting very annoyed. He is trying to figure this all out, finding that, well, simply just running the test and trying to figure this all out in his head isn't good. He also does have a separate computer running the likelihood of another crash, which is very likely. And he constantly has to use the USBs to plug in new things and actually open up different pathways or shortcuts for information. He's basically sitting at a desk with 5 computers open around the main one he has. As Deku is just watching this, somewhat reading this coding book. His dad just keeps telling Deku that this is going to be very hard to figure out and he might have to call in some colleagues. To which Deku would just tell his dad that he believes in him and that he should be able to do it. To which Hisashi would just say that might be true, but how good are you at learning things? To which Deku would just say that he's reading this book and it's kind of not making sense to him, but he might understand it. He's tried using his quirk, but that's a bit different. It seems like it doesn't work for this type of tech. Meaning that Deku, he's more of a hands-on learner. So, this is whenever Hisashi would just say that is true. As he comes to a roadblock, where he gets so annoyed he just gets up and does one thing as he pours out his coffee and decides that it's time to go to sleep. Now, while that's happening, Deku would just ask his dad if, well, BT can't be everywhere at once, right? Well, yeah, it's a bit annoying because if their BT, whenever it gets injured or hurt, as we call it, they essentially can come back to the main server and pull everything down. Since it's basically a hub for, well, one thing. To which Deku would just ask his dad exactly why is it one? Can't everyone get their own BT? To which Deku's dad, taking a sip of water, would immediately spit it out, saying that that's it. To which Deku would look at him a bit confused, asking him what is it? His dad immediately running over to the computer and typing in a few things, as he just sees this determination and drive in his dad's face, kind of concerned at what he's doing, as his dad would do one thing. he would pull out a couple of unused hard drives and download the code for BT into them, as he would pull them out and decide to... Alright, now then. Deku's dad would decide to do one thing, as he rummages through the backpack, pulling out a prototype device, pulling it over his arm, as he watches his dad flip it over to his wrist and turn it on, as he sees it somewhat glow and light up. His dad would be plugging in a USB as you hear a voice. "Hello, Mr. Midoriya. How may I assist you today?" As Deku would watch his dad use somewhat of a, well, AI or wrist gauntlet. He would just ask him if he can run a number for him. Exactly how would it work as he would continue talking, to which the AI would give him the information that he would need, saying that it is most likely this would work within these parameters, and could be accomplished within this amount of time. To which his dad would immediately make a phone call, telling him that he has a solution, but he's going to need all hands on deck for this. Sadly, they were going to have to pull away some of the scientists from engineering to development of BT. Since usually whenever BT crashes or does any of this, it usually requires one scientist, but since Deku's dad's been basically tasked with trying to figure out a way to recode the entire system, that's a big deal. So, if he could call any hands on deck if he needs it, he can. But since he's calling all hands on deck, that is a big priority. So, it wouldn't really be questioned. As Deku's dad would do one thing in the panic. He would just pull as many hard drives as he can, grabbing them and putting them into his backpack, telling Izuku that he's a bit sorry, but he was a really big help, as he would pull him in for a hug, saying that he can at least have this, as he's a bit confused. Now, Deku being a bit confused, he would look at this as he does flip it over, to read the number on it. 7274, as he's a bit confused. Now, he would just walk over, plugging it into the computer as it turns on, which is whenever it would just say, "Hello, Mr. unknown parameters," as BT and Deku would begin to talk. Now, while that is happening, Deku would just be asking questions to BT about certain things, asking exactly what does his dad do, to which he would be called a researcher, developer, and scientist for the Titanfall program. The program used to be secretive, but, well, after government funding went through, it became open to the public some odd 120 years ago. Now, this is whenever Deku would just ask exactly, what does that mean? BT would just say that that means that anyone can become a pilot. They just need to train. And, well, know exactly what to do. Besides, you also have to have a Titan. Deku would hear this, as we'll cut to about a year later. Deku's gotten a bit better at coding, and he's found that he's actually a natural, just like his father, so he is currently at the age of 5. Now, Deku's dad, he would have walked in one day and see that Deku, he's actually working on the computer in his room. He is working on BT, and his dad would walk over to see some coding, asking exactly what that is. To which Deku, not even looking away from the screen, would just say that he's trying to give his BT a sense of personality. Since everyone's going to have their own ones, I want to make mine a little bit more unique. Well, alright, but just make sure you don't change the three protocols. The three what? Well, as Deku's dad would just take the keyboard, slide it a bit to the left, and start typing in, as he would open up a subroutine, showing exactly this page that Deku hasn't seen before. He would just say that these are the three protocols. You need to link with your pilot, uphold the mission, and protect the pilot. Those protocols, they haven't really changed over the last couple centuries. Largely, they remain the same. So you just need to make sure that you at least keep those there. But as his dad would scroll down a bit to a little bit of code, saying that this one, however, this little bit of code is what makes BT a little bit more serious. It kind of gives him a bit of a militaristic feel to him. So as his dad would just blink out the code and type the backspace, as it would disappear, saying that that should work. So you can now... He won't be serious, but he just won't have any personality now. So you can code one on, or experiment, and see what you would want him to be like. Now, Deku would just be told by his mom that it's time for school, as she would walk in seeing these two talking, asking exactly how long has Deku been awake. To which he would just look out the window and say yes, as he would go to school that day, half awake. Now, with that happening, whenever Deku gets to school, he is trying to work on something he has. He just has what can be best described as a little ball in his hand, but it's a bit more complicated. While they're at school, Bakugo would walk up to him and ask him exactly what is he doing, as he would see Deku tinkering with this thing in his hand. He would just say that he's trying to figure it all out. His dad somewhat made this, and he's been looking over it and seeing what he can improve with his quirk. Bakugo would just say that that's a bit stupid, but humor me, Deku. To which he would do one thing. He would cock his arm backwards, throwing the ball straight out forward. As whenever the ball gets sent flying, as soon as it hits an object, a piston would shoot out and immediately make it bounce back, as it comes barreling straight towards Bakugo. He would hold his hand outwards as he goes to throw an explosion. As soon as the explosion makes contact with the ball, it would just bounce off of it and begin flying straight in that direction again. Now, this is whenever everyone's a bit confused and asking exactly what this is supposed to be, as recess does not go as planned that day. The ball would eventually lose momentum as it would fall, hitting the ground and bouncing back upwards, as someone would go to grab it. They would have gotten lucky, but the piston, it kind of made it harder to grab, since it would basically jump out and retract immediately. So they had to ask Deku exactly how to turn this thing off. With that being said, a little time would pass, and let us cut over to the facility Deku's dad is working at. His dad has gotten the approval and actually BT up and running again. However, the BT that is connected to the main hub, as you can call it for the pilots, it is different from their AI. They actually had to rename it and reclassify it as something else. I would make a joke and say they can classify it as Skynet, but that's a bit too on the nose. I would say Legion, but that one did not go well either. Anyways. I'm coming to a blank for like AI in movies. Let's just say that they would call this one Ace. Now, Reclassifying Ace was a bit difficult, but with their BTs, they did change the voice operations and, well, make it a bit different. At the factory, or, well, place, Tech Lab, Deku, he would be walking in as he's looking around and seeing more and more things. As since BT's up and operational, they don't have to worry about that crashing all the time anymore. Deku, he would just ask his dad exactly what was that thing he had. His dad would just say that it was a bit of a, well, what's the best thing to call these? I'm not sure what we should call them yet, but they're basically arm-mounted computers. Very high-tech, and they're just like those holovids. To which Deku would be impressed. Now, he would just explain that he found this, and he was trying to figure out what it does. All he found, or, well, looked into it, found that it was just a super advanced bouncy ball. To which his dad would immediately grab that, saying to be careful with this. Using it outside is, well, somewhat safe, but in closed doors and in a room, we use this for a training protocol. I forgot I even had this. Well, as he would just say that, might as well let him see it. As he takes Deku into a new part of the exhibits, showing off the abilities, the training, and everything these people have done, along with the firearms, the stopping power they used to have, and the new modifications. Since the missiles, they're basically made to shoot and actually disperse, a pace that can either dissolve things if they need to, be canisters, or just any type of capture device. Along with them trading over to, I would say rubber bullets, but that is not going to work. Somewhat like foam launchers or guns. Basically, things heroes cannot use because they would be too bulky or too heavy. Basically just them with larger support items. Now, he would also show Deku some of the larger titans, along with one little video. Now, Deku, he would just be watching this video, as it shows them trying to use the different abilities. It shows a pilot using a grappling hook. Basically, on the computer on his wrist, he just does one thing as he's running through an area and he's actually just jumping upwards to a wall. As he does that, he throws out a hook from his right arm, or out of a gauntlet on his wrist, and he's able to zoom his way over to the other wall, being able to run on it and actually keep himself going. As Deku would be intrigued. Now, as Deku, his eyes would widen, he would immediately turn to his dad, asking exactly what that is, as he's looking around. His dad is nowhere to be seen, which kinda confuses him, as he feels something tap on his shoulder, turning around to see nothing there. As his dad would somewhat laugh, as he presses a button on his wrist. He would just say that that is another thing. Pilots, they usually rely on this type of tech, as Deku would just ask what that was. He would just say that that is what they call cloak. It is for stealth pilots, and or stealth missions. The pilots aren't the only things we outfit with technology, though. We also do outfit the mechs themselves. As he would show a video of Ion, using what can be best described as a laser core, burning his way through another titan, which Deku is completely intrigued by, asking if there's any way to tone that down. He would just say that they tried, but it's not that easy. Sometimes you have to fight against another titan, because before we had the patent on this, someone decided to sell it for not a lot of money. to which he would see his dad's face turn a bit sour. He would just say that that's fine though, as he would walk Deku over to a different exhibit. This exhibit is called the First Fall, showing them trying to use phase shift technology for the first time in a Titan. It would show the Titan getting onto the battlefield for the first time, as whenever it was launched, it was a bit too high, so it didn't shift correctly, showing it above 30 feet in the air, falling down to the ground and landing, shaking the entire area, making the camera fall. As that is the reason they called it the Titanfall project. Also because someone said it out loud and it was a really good name. Now then, that is where I'm going to be leaving this part off of, guys. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.